So were you involved with the 202 any time in there while you were not on council?
Yes. The state of Arizona asked me to help them. As a matter of fact, so did Greg Stanton. I got a phone call from the mayor because he knew my relationship with the tribe and our community. You know, you gotta remember, I've been active out here for a long time. I've been involved in almost every organization in Ahwatukee Foothills. So Greg called me up and said, hey, we could really use your help. I'm going to call ADOT. Do you think you can get the parties to work together? I said, there's no doubt in my mind I can get the parties to work together. And in 2005, the state of Arizona asked me to help them put a proposal together. They hired me on to do that. I did it in maybe 60 days. You know, we put it together and it went nowhere. So that was a level of frustration for me as well, because there was a lot of effort. There was an incredible amount of work put into putting something together. You know, a lot of people were working on it, and it didn't go anywhere. And you know, to the state's argument at the time, they were more focused on the I-10. I was more focused on Pecos Road and getting the freeway off of there. So, because again, it goes along with I really believe that freeway on Pecos Road is not to our benefit. It just isn't. You know, it is not to the benefit of this community. You know, so the further south, the better. If it never gets built, I think that's fine too. You know? But so in 2005, they asked me to do that, and it went nowhere. So I've always known that I can help our community on this. I've always known it, that I can help put this together. So in 2009, given my history from the 1990s to 2000, and then being put back on the council, I really believed I could use the position as a bully pulpit to get people start working together. And we accomplished that. The end result is still not there, but we got everybody working together, we got everybody talking together, and that was a big step, because that hadn't happened before. So
what exactly did they ask you to do in 2005, and why did it fall apart?
Well, they just, what they asked me was like, go out there and find out what we could put together on a proposal. We did that, and see what all the entities would be. Some would be working with Maricopa County, some working with the state. Would there be involved, in some land trades that they would have to be put together? What would that look like? Not that that would be the end all, but that would be the beginning of a discussion. So that's what they had asked me to do. The reason it fell apart was that it was never presented. It never took the step forward. The state never took the step forward to begin the discussions with them and saying, hey, look, we've got a proposal we would like to present to you. That's what you do. If I want to buy your home, let's just take real estate. I would go up to you and say, Allison, I want to buy your home. And you would say, well, how much do you want for it? It's that simple. Likewise, the state would have to literally engage the community and say they would like to find an alternative to Pecos Road. That never happened. It never happened. Asking people to sit at the table is not the same thing as asking them to participate at the table. So you can be a bystander and still not participate. The other thing is that you got to remember the culture of the Gila River Indian community is one of non-confrontation. So it's not in the culture to be sitting at the table and making demands of things when you see a direction. You may not like what's occurring there, but that's not within the basic culture of non-confrontation. So the idea was to get the state to begin discussions with them. That did not happen. Got on the council, and we put the team together, for and against the freeway. I mean, and strong, strident positions, incredibly strident. Like the ones were for it, and it was an interesting first couple meetings. But after the first couple of meetings, we were able to work together and say, what works for everybody's benefit here, and that was the anywhere but Pecos position. So then everybody started working with the state. They started working, they started making the phone calls. They started elevating the topic of the freeway, and the state and Governor Brewer was there. Her administration, literally came out and said, okay, we'll find a way to make it work. The tribe asked for a proposal. They said that they were never given a proposal. I don't know if you remember that MAG meeting. The lieutenant governor says, well, we've never been given a proposal. And Mayor Scott Smith said, what do you mean? He goes, we've never been given a proposal. Are you willing to entertain?
So I think I found a letter from the tribe saying that they would entertain a proposal. Was it the state that dropped the ball and never gave them a proposal?
When did that occur?
2010.
Yeah. Okay, 2010 was right after that, where the lieutenant governor went to MAG and said, American Association of Government, for the people listening here. That's the regional organization with all the cities on it. That's when the lieutenant governor said that they would entertain a proposal. So I think that may have been a result of that.
Okay.
So I don't know what the date was and when that all occurred, but right around that time, I'm sure that's what happened.
So did the state never give a proposal?
No, it never happened. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Is it never happened, and that's what's been frustrating for me. Is that I know that there's a solution out there, and let me go back to where I started with this on. I know that there's a solution. I have an obligation to protect this community. Period. And I could have done what a lot of politicians have done and are doing. They do nothing, right? Or I could have engaged and taken the criticism for engaging in it. This was not a hard choice for me. I'm going to do what I have to do to protect this community. I know that there's a solution out there. And after all these years, no proposal, no nothing, that's what we found out. And it took us up to 2010 to see that. So from the late 1980s to 2010, nothing had occurred like that. Nothing. So, I'm going to just drill this home. The current administration, ADOT, have done a lot now to try to work with this community. They have. I know a lot of people are still mad at them, but that's because of what happened in the past. But, since 2009, 2010, Allison, they've literally, opened the door to say, okay, if the tribe wants to do this, we'll work with them on it. That didn't happen until then. It was always about driving it through the mountain. It was always about keeping it on Pecos Road. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen until the game-changing moment is when the tribal leader went to MAG and said, we would like a proposal. And then that's when everything started to change. And that was the significant point in the change for everybody. And you can call it the Big Bang, you can call it the game-changing moment, whatever you call it. That's when everything started to shift. And the shift was more of an open dialogue. There wasn't as much contention after that. Now, remember, there's a lot of history, but those walls and those barriers started breaking down between all people. If you remember back in 2008, 2009, if you ever went to any of our meetings, they were rude. Some people were just incredibly rude. You had tribal members that you want to work with, and they were calling them names. I saw that. It was horrible. So what you saw now is, since that game-changing moment, we now have a unified community in Ahwatukee on the number one issue that impacts us. There's no other issue bigger than this right now, and it hasn't been for a while. So we're now unified on that. You see the state and the tribal community working together. They're working a little bit better.
How are they working together?
Well, they've been meeting and they've been talking. The antagonism level, or the contention level is a lot lower now. So the state has been waiting, and I believe patiently, to see what the tribal community was going to do on a vote. They also know that there's another vote coming, and I believe that they'll work with them to do that. Before that, there was none of that occurring. None of that was occurring. They also gave us time to put this together. Not us, but they gave us time to try to pull all the parties together as much as we could do it. So they gave us a lot of time.
So I have this timeline from ADOT.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to identify the important
Let's
dates for
look at
Ahwatukee.
Okay.
So would you say there was an important time in 2009 when everyone got together?
Yes. And I believe, Robert, do you know when I did that?
No, that was pre-me, and I don't have those.
But I believe it was in 2009 is when we pulled everybody together. I'm pretty sure. Or early 2010.
And then 2010 was when they requested a study.
This is really good. Yes. 2010. Yeah, there were important parts for our community. 2009. I believe that's when we pulled the team together. I believe that's when it occurred. I'll find out for you the exact date. Then their work moved into 2010, where they were talking to the state land department, the legislators. They were raising the profile of the freeway. Remember, the state of Arizona was already saying it's on Pecos Road, and we're not going to. This is it. Excuse me, there was no intention on the state of Arizona to move off that position at all. So in 2010, all the work that they put together basically got everyone to the point where that one MAG meeting, the game-changing moment where the tribal leader said, we've never had a proposal. It was all geared toward that, because you got to remember, everybody was blaming the tribal community. Everyone was blaming them. They're like, well, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. No, it wasn't them. It wasn't them. So they came out and asked, they took the initiative and said, we'd like to at least look at it. That started the change, and that was only just a few years ago. So that, but if you go back to all this here, you go back to 25 years or more, it was all directed toward Pecos. It was all directed through South Mountain Park. And so that changed the game. And so now we'll see what happens. We'll know in the next few weeks what really occurs there, Allison. My hope is that everyone still continues to work together on this, and they do take it off of Pecos Road. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I guess I'm still questioning, and the Republic questioned it not too long ago. What happened in 2010 when the state when there was no proposal given?
Well, they changed. Everything changed direction in 2010. When the tribal leader went up there and said, we would like to look at a proposal, Mayor Scott Smith, you could just see you couldn't, I read it in the newspaper, but you could imagine what he looked like. He's like, you've never had one? No, we haven't. And it changed the direction. But I also believe it's because of a lot of the work that people in this community put into this thing. It was about almost a full year of raising and elevating the issue, people meeting with individuals, talking to everybody. And once that level got raised, and our community started to realize that there was never a proposal. I remember, it's 2009, I kept saying, nobody's ever delivered a proposal. And everyone said, well, no, that's not true. I'm like, no, they've never delivered a proposal. I know that because I've been around this. And so the whole year was toward getting that to that point. So in 2010, the request was made, and the acknowledgement was that there was never a proposal presented.
So is it because of that acknowledgement that there was a vote?
I'm convinced of it.
The first vote, obviously.
No, because of that, it changed the dynamics. You got to remember, it's no different than going in this direction. Everything was heading this way for 20 plus years, and every day puts it more and more set in stone. And to change that direction, it required this big a moment to happen. And once that occurred, it allowed the parties to start working together. So there were a lot of bad things occurring. I mean, engineers do what engineers do. They see the most clearest way for, from point A to point B. So you can't fault them for that. The political field says, hey, wait a second, we don't want to destroy our mountain. We don't want to take up all these homes. We look at the quality of life. We look at the cost. We look at everything in there too. So you've got, a state of Arizona that was geared on one path. To change that direction required what we saw here occur at the MAG meeting. And that's where the tribal leader said, we've never had a proposal, we would like to have one. Then it started opening the door. The state of Arizona, they've always been talking to the tribal community, but they actually started talking about this. They gave them a lot of time, they gave them the room, they gave our community the time to try to find a way to make it work. So, that was, again, I'm very respectful to the state for giving us that time and working with us on it. That was not going to happen. And it took a lot of effort too. This was not an easy thing for any of us to do. We're changing a path. We're changing something that 25 years was set in stone. To get people to start talking about it and to make people realize that there was never a proposal on the table, never a proposal on the table, took a lot of, because the majority of people always believed that there was, because that's what we all believed. And I knew differently, that it never happened. So because of that, it took a lot of convincing to let people know that, wait a second, that hasn't happened. And then that started the movement to where people started working together. Now, I don't know what the final outcome is going to be, but I do know we've moved a lot, and especially for somebody who doesn't have any power over this. We've done a lot, Allison, as a community to try to work together as, for people that are for the freeway and for people that are opposed to the freeway. We literally started working together as a community again And I'm really proud of all the work that people put into this thing. I mean, a lot of work, and we're talking a lot of years. This was not easy to do what we did here. It was really hard, you know, but we did it. You know, now the next step is to see what happens with a vote.